Welcome to the local campaign here on Rogers TV. Thank you so much for joining us. Really excited, of course, about another debate here on Rogers TV. As you know, Election Day is October 24th. And as we get closer to Election Day, we turn our attention to municipal debates. Today's debate is with Ward 18, Alta Vista. Before I introduce you to our candidates, I will go over the format, of course, for you at home and for our candidates here in studio. We will begin with an opening statement. Each and every candidate will have an opportunity for an opening statement. They will have 60 seconds for that. The order of that was chosen just a few moments ago by a random draw. So after we finish our opening statements, we go into the debate portion. So how that's going to work is I'm going to ask a question to a candidate. They will open the conversation and they will have 45 seconds to open that conversation. And then I will open the floor to all candidates. And I always encourage candidates just to feel free to jump in at any time. So we'll go through that debate portion, of course, talking about a lot of the important issues, not only in the ward, but for residents across the city of Ottawa. Once we're done the debate portion, we move into our closing statements, and each candidate will have 60 seconds for their closing statement, and that will be done in reverse order. So let's introduce you to our candidates here today for Alta Vista Ward 18. We start with Bob Perkins. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you so much, Derek. Hi, I'm Bob Perkins.
No, sorry. Oh. I'll just introduce each one and then we'll go. Gino Scaffidi. Welcome, Gino. Marty Carr.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here, Marty. And Carolyn Kropp. Thank you, Carolyn. Welcome. Good morning to all of you. And now, Bob, we can start with you. You'll have 60 seconds for your opening statement. Go ahead.
Great. Thanks again, Derek. Hi, I'm Bob Perkins. I'm a lifelong member of the Alta Vista community, having resided in the ward for over 40 years. I've been the president of 3 Ottawa community associations, on the board of director for 4 of those community associations, the last being Riverview Park. I've been the president of 2 local business associations, a board committee member of Ottawa Community Housing. In my professional life, I've been a trusted commercial real estate advisor for over 30 years in the National Capital Region. In this time, I've benefited with working with the City of Ottawa in over 40 projects, had advised on the last 3 official plans, and have provided my professional advice to over 10 municipalities across Canada and to all levels of government. I believe that I have the experience and the know-how to best advance the issues and concerns of residents of Alta Vista as their councillor. I thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to your support in the debate with my candidates today.
Thank you, Bob. And next up is Gino Scaffidi. Gino, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. I've decided to run for councillor because I've personally been involved as a private citizen with issues with the city, which has transgressed into multi-jurisdictional issues. So from the perspective of a private citizen, my intent is to run as a candidate for councillor and continue to represent an immediate group of people in my community of Ward 18. And issues that I feel have touched upon a broader spectrum of people. And that's my reason for running, and these issues will be raised as I move along.
Thank you, Gino. Thank you very much. Marty Carr, you have 60 seconds to open.
Good morning, and thank you. I'm thrilled to present myself as a candidate for councillor for Alta Vista. For more than a dozen years, I've worked voluntarily to achieve results for Alta Vista, not as a requirement of my job, but because of my passion for this community. Whether it's been starting a farmer's market or leading the Alta Vista response to the official plan, I always stay focused on achieving the changes that residents are asking for. In my 4 years as president of the Alta Vista Community Association, I represented the interests of residents at scores of city working groups and consultations, from traffic and transit to planning, development, parks, and the environment. I have a deep understanding of municipal issues and city processes. And as an executive in the federal public service, I have extensive experience tackling complex work, navigating governance, and managing by results. I am known for my experience and ability to perform the challenge function on policy and program proposals and ensure value for money. But I also have the confidence to take considered risks when they're supported by strong accountability systems and an unwavering commitment to getting the best returns on every dollar of taxpayers' money. Finally, my 20-plus years in government management have been nonpartisan. Nonpartisanship is critical to the role of a successful city councillor.
Thank you. Next up is Carolyn Kropp. Carolyn, you have 60 seconds.
Hello, bonjour. I'm Carolyn Kropp. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathering on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. I was born and raised in Alta Vista. I've lived there my entire life, and my husband and I are currently raising our 4 children in the ward. I love this community. I care about this community. I know this community. Over the decades, I've been an ardent volunteer, and I continue to work professionally in the ward. As councillor, my priorities would be to be Alta Vista focused, to open a community office in the ward, to be fiscally responsible, safeguarding and protecting our essential services while championing progressive policies, and to work collaboratively with current council, new council members, and a new mayor. I would be honored to serve the community of Alta Vista as your first ever female councillor and earn your trust and vote on October 24th. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of our candidates. All right, we'll start the debate portion, and I'll start with you, Bob. You'll have 45 seconds to open, and you'll also have 30 seconds to wrap up on this topic. So the topic is affordable housing. We've been talking about this being a crisis, an emergency situation here in Ottawa. What are some of the solutions in getting more affordable housing, in particular more affordable rental housing? You have 45 seconds to open, Bob.
Great. Thank you, Derick. I had the benefit of actually serving on a board committee of Ottawa Community Housing, who's the largest provider of affordable housing in the Ottawa area. And what it taught me in terms of the crisis, there's about a waiting list of about 10,000 people that are looking for housing in Ottawa. The issue at hand is not one of having the right sites in place, because for a group like Ottawa Community Housing, they do have sites in place. It's the funding from the federal government to make it affordable to build new housing units for those terribly in need. So I think understand the issue of financing fairly well. I come from a real estate consulting background and understand affordable housing very well as well.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I open it up. Feel free to jump in at any time, any candidate.
So I think it's important to clarify that affordable housing has multiple definitions. And when we're talking about affordable housing, and we're talking about 2 different things. We're talking about making housing more affordable for everyone to live in, which is basically increasing the supply, changing our zoning. These are things that are happening. And then there's deeply affordable housing, which I think is what Bob was talking about as well. The investment has dropped off significantly. I think we need to bring some new ideas to the table on how to increase that stock. It is true the federal government has cut their funding significantly. We used to build 30,000 units at peak. We're down to about 6,000 with the Rapid Housing Initiative now. So we need new ideas at the table in order to build that stock. And there's a couple things that we could do. We could develop an acquisition strategy with the city that could take the lead on that, on perhaps working like Montreal has on the preemptive right. We could also work with city properties to see if they can be offered up to housing providers, and that's something that's done in Edmonton. But currently, the list of social housing is about 10,000 deep. So we need to solve this issue, and we could also double the amount of money in terms of the subsidies that are offered through the city's own program. There's about 500 of those right now. By doubling alone 1,000, we could significantly reduce that social housing list.
Thanks, Marty. Anybody else want to go ahead, Carol?
I agree that we definitely need deeply affordable housing for seniors, those on low incomes, and people and families living near the poverty line. We already have tools at our disposal, like inclusionary zoning, so my focus would be to increase that to ensure affordable and deeply affordable units and that they continue to exist in the market. To use tools such as the Community Benefits Agreement, which was an innovative tool used first here in Alta Vista Ward. So look and continue to use those resources at our hands, and definitely, as everyone has said, to continue lobbying and working with our federal and provincial partners to allocate funding to create affordable housing units within the ward in the City of Ottawa. I've worked personally with many, many residents through my professional office, those waiting on the registry wait list, and it's not a position anyone wants to find themselves in. The wait list is at least 15 years long here in
thanks,
Ottawa.
Carol. Gino, do you want to get in here?
Well, as far as affordable housing, I have to admit I'm not as well versed with my colleagues here. They've done some research into that. I would have to, within the municipality, research what's out there, what approaches have been engaged in, and it's obviously a very complex issue and requires deep investigation into several layers of government. What is the federal government doing for it? Provincial, what powers does the municipal government have to...
Bob, do you want to...
Yeah, I think the issue is really one of funding. I said that before, and it truly is. There are incentives out there. The federal government through CMHC are providing the means towards getting it done. The problem is the private sector isn't jumping on board enough to help support the initiative. And that's because at this point, it's not profitable enough for the private sector to engage. And the whole initiative behind CMHC was to try to engage the public sector with greater funds to make it viable, but it hasn't been successful. There's plenty of sites that the federal government had offered up in terms of their surplus portfolio across the country, including in the Ottawa area. And again, a group like Ottawa Community Housing have ample sites to build lots of product. The problem is the funding to do so, which
Bob, you'll have a chance to wrap, so I'd like to get some other thoughts. So go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, no, I just want to, Carolyn here mentioned inclusionary zoning. That's actually not available to us yet. That's not until 2023. It was recently discussed at City Council, and that's only going to create units at the protected major transit service areas, so where you're going to see a large amount of apartment buildings. It's actually not deeply affordable housing. And I actually had the pleasure of working on the social contract on Heron Gate. And again, we worked with the city to develop affordable units. And the people that are living there now will be transferred at their current rate, but the new units, again, are not deeply affordable housing. So what I'm hearing from people is we're going to use existing tools. I think as councillors, we have to introduce new issues to solve problems like affordable housing. And we can't just use status quo saying, we're already doing this. This is coming in. It's all good. It's not all good.
Okay. Carolyn, do you want to add to that?
I agree with Marty. We can't keep doing the same thing and looking for new and innovative tools, resources, and that's what a strong councillor would do, and that's what I would expect from residents. Again, I've worked with residents over the years who have been on the wait list, the registry wait list, and I know what it's like. I know what they go through, and so that input forces me to do what I think a strong councillor should do and to fight for residents.
Marty, I know you have more to say, so did you want to? No? Okay,
No,
Gino, last opportunity to speak on this topic.
Well, the best way I can phrase this, affordable housing, it's a large issue, and I think it's important that the approach to it is an equitable approach. To provide affordable housing doesn't take away from rights and privileges.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much, everybody. I come back to you, Bob. You have 30 seconds to wrap on the topic.
Sure, there's lots of tools out there. We're perhaps not using them to the best of our ability to fulfill the demand that's in the market. I would say one of the major issues is replacement of current affordable housing with those that may extend beyond what those people are currently paying. That's a huge issue we saw at Heron Gate. And we know that that will continue to be in our ward to a degree. And I think we have to focus as councillors on that issue at hand.
Okay, thank you to everybody. All right, Gino, we're going to start with you for the next one. You'll have 45 seconds to open, and then, of course, I'll open it up to everyone. Let's talk safety. It's a big issue in your ward. A lot of residents talking about safer streets, safer communities. I'm talking about aggressive driving, speeding, safe school zones. What are some of the solutions that you can bring to the table to make your community safer and your street safer? Gino, you have 45 seconds to open.
Well, yes, of course. I've read the stories. It's disconcerting to read that in my ward, actually quite close to where I'm currently living, there's been incidences of shootings. I mean, I think a solution, I mean, it's obviously a large social issue, you know, what causes these types of things, but to address it, an immediate solution is to provide more local police patrol of the community. Let there be more of a presence of police patrolling the ward.
Okay, we've got the conversation open. Jump in at any time.
I definitely agree that residents are feeling that crime is up. I see it daily on community Facebook pages throughout Alta Vista Ward. All the car break-ins, carport shed, garage thefts, bicycle thefts. So residents are feeling that crime is up. It doesn't matter what statistics may or may not say. I think we need to continue working with police and our community policing units that are doing such a great job, along with frontline organizations like Southeast Ottawa Community Health Centre, who are already on the front lines and working within the community and doing a good job. So as a councillor, you work with those organizations, you partner with them, and you liaise with the police so that residents feel that their concerns are being heard, number one, and that hopefully some action can ensue. The root causes of why this is happening, there are many, and I'm certainly not here to try and resolve those. But again, it's to work with those people on the front lines. Hopefully it's citywide, it's an issue, and get to those root causes, work on that, bring in some new investments and funding.
Okay, let's leave it there. Marty, go ahead, and then I'll come to you, Bob.
Yeah, and I think, Derick, I think you actually that question had two parts. You talked a lot about safe streets in terms of speeding, and then we started talking about the police. So I'll address both, if that's okay, quickly. Currently, the ward councillor has a small budget, about $40,000 a year for temporary traffic calming measures. I think that can be better used by working with all residents and community associations across the group to develop a ward-wide plan. Currently, it's been done very much on an ad hoc basis, and I think as a councillor, we have a responsibility to work with everyone across the board to make sure that those limited resources are applied correctly across the ward. And I think that there's also work that can be done following up in the 2017 audit of the Road Services branch, in which they talked a lot about some of the problems with the materials that they were using and holding contractors responsible. Now, with respect to policing, which my colleagues have brought up today, I think that in the future with a new mayor, there needs to be a major leadership role of the mayor to be serving on the Police Services Board, given everything that's going on in the community. I think that the police need to continue working with the marginalized communities in mental health. And, I think there needs to be better reporting back from the police. There was a $2.65 million reallocation that was made in this year's budget. And the police said they were not going to cut any officers. So how have those reductions impacted them? This sort of stuff needs to be reported back to the public.
Okay, Bob?
Yeah, I think in terms of Alta Vista, I think we need to have representative on the Ottawa Police Services Board to protect the interests of Alta Vista. I'd be happy to serve as that member if it comes to pass. The other thing I'm a real advocate of is an audit of public security spending in Alta Vista. So are we getting our proportionate share of police services and traffic calming in comparison to the rest of the city? Because I know that the tax base is quite strong in Alta Vista, and we should benefit from those services that are derived directly for us. I think we need to establish a task force on public safety that would include all the community associations and all the stakeholders in the Alta Vista area, because this is a ward-wide problem and we need to get together, and I'd be happy to spearhead that as the councillor. And lastly, a reinvigoration of neighborhood watch and Crime Stoppers for the local area will certainly pay off. We need to get organized, and we need to prevent crime and speeding and all of those items that are happening in our community that we have never seen to this degree before.
Okay, thank you. Carolyn,
So
Marty?
to talk about traffic calming, again, yes, a number one concern for residents across the ward. So what are the solutions? It's to work with residents to find solutions that work. At the doors, I'm hearing that the current solutions that have been implemented throughout the ward are not necessarily working well. So it's to take a look at it again and to use the councillor's budget well, and to advocate for extra funding. As Bob said, a strong councillor should advocate on behalf of the ward and to get as many resources for Alta Vista as possible, which perhaps has not been done in the past very well.
Anybody else? Marty?
I'll just add, in terms of the traffic calming that's been done to date, what we're hearing at the doors, and I reiterate this, is that it's been a waste of money. We have signs that are across the street from each other telling people to slow down. It has been wasted funds, in my view, and the view of many of the residents that I've been knocking on the door and speaking to. So I think there are better solutions for traffic calming. They are more expensive, and sometimes they're temporary speed bumps that are placed and removed for the winter for snow plowing. But it's a major issue, and we have to do it right and not waste the dollars towards a solution that just doesn't work.
Anyone else want to come in before I go to Gino here?
Yeah, and that's why I'm suggesting, and I put as one of my commitments, that we do this on a ward-wide basis with full consultation as opposed to be doing it on a one-off basis. I do hear the exact same thing at Bob at the doors, that because there's no requirement to consult on these measures, one street resident can complain, they can come in and do a traffic study, and your whole street can be changed. So I think as a councillor, you need to consult broadly, widely, and keep the citizens informed of what's going on.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. We'll end it there. Gino, you have 30 seconds to wrap up on the topic here.
My colleagues here have expressed the concerns quite articulately. I agree with everything that they've expressed. Again, it's a broad social issue. In my mind, where do these shootings, break-ins, what are the causes of that?
Okay, sorry, Gino, I got to end it there. Okay, we move over to you, Marty. You'll have 45 seconds to open up this. Here's another big file for the four of you, and that is public transit. And we've heard a lot about it during this campaign, and we'll continue to hear about it as we get closer to the results of that inquiry. But everyone's talking a lot about the LRT, but there's problems with our bus system as well. We're seeing numerous cancellations. Let's talk about some of the solutions. Marty, you have 45 seconds.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Derick. And I am a proud user of public transit, although I will admit in the last 2.5 years since I've been working at home, I have not been using it to the extent possible. We've invested so much in our LRT, and as things have changed, not only with the pandemic, with workers at home, we need to refocus on solutions for local transit users. 100%, almost 100% of people should have access to public transport. Only 50% of people drive. And children don't drive, some elderly people, sick people don't drive, disabled people. We need to make sure that there's equity in our system. We need to make sure that paratransport is available as much as possible. We need to introduce new solutions. It's expensive with transit. Let's look at on-demand services for seniors' residences, for those areas that are hard to reach, and let's revisit the local units. Let's work with the federal government. They're setting up hubs across
thank you, Marty. You'll be able to add, but I open it up to all candidates here.
Yeah, I think as it relates to public transit, the LRT has had its struggles, and there's some solutions there. But in terms of the service itself, it needs to be to have solutions that are sustainable, that provides enough ridership, so that those that do take public transit aren't paying through the nose an expensive fee to take the service. And one of the ideas that I had through some consultation with the City of City of Calgary, was to establish a deal, if you will, with the federal government to provide a reduced fare for all of their employees in the National Capital Area. This incentive, much like what we do for the University of Ottawa, Algonquin, and Carleton University, is a bulk buy, which would ensure that the ridership revenue comes in and it wouldn't lead to higher cost for the rest of the residents. Now, this is just an initiative, an idea, but it also supports the government's desire to have workers go back to work in a meaningful way and provide a subsidy.
We'll leave it there. I think we got the idea. Carolyn or Gino, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I agree. The system is broken with respect to LRT at this point in time. There is a commission who will be making recommendations. I definitely think we need to wait for that commission to table its recommendations and use those recommendations. A strong councillor, strong council, strong mayor needs to look at those recommendations, a hard look at them, and implement them. And so working at council, if elected, it would be to look at those recommendations and put in the hard work to make sure that residents, not just in Alta Vista ward, but across the city, can rely on their public transit system again. In the ward, again, hearing very much so that local OC transport routes are not working for people. They're not scheduled correctly. It just doesn't work. So it's to help manage that, mitigate those issues so that local users can get to work on time where they need to go.
We'll leave it there, Carolyn. Go ahead, Marty, and Gino will come to you after. Go ahead.
Yeah, yes, thank you very much. And I appreciate, Bob, you bringing a new idea to the table. We're not hearing a lot of new ideas out of the candidates in order to improve things, just acknowledging that things need to improve and that we'll work on it. And so I appreciate that. The one thing, Bob, that I would caution as a federal public servant, a lot of us are at home, and what we need to really work on and to make transit work for everybody. And so there's a lot of people that really need to use transit that are on wage workers, people that have daycare, and it's not reliable right now. So I think we need to introduce new solutions. Maybe we look at zone-based fares that they've done in other cities. I'm not sure if it would work here because we want to make sure that everybody can use that and it's not further marginalizing certain groups. Again, I think new solutions are needed. We need to go back to the drawing board, work with the federal government. They're setting up hubs in different parts of the city for workers to work in. Maybe we're not all going downtown anymore. Let's revisit some of those routes. Sometimes you see 2 empty buses still going down one of the major arteries in Alta Vista. And let's look at new ideas, on-demand services, small, low cost to serve the problems of the people that need it most.
Gino, do you want to add?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the LRT transportation issues has been a major concern for me because I've been involved as a private citizen for the past 2 years, consulting and communicating at the municipal level and at higher levels of government. And in my research, I've uncovered there's inefficiencies in the system and in how the municipality has carried out its evolvement of the transportation agenda. And without getting into details, in this forum, there are inefficiencies in the system. And the key thing I've discovered and uncovered is that there has to be a democratic process. If there's a majority of ward constituents that are concerned about a problem, and then that goes to a vote among councillors, and they conduct a democratic process to see whether funding is made available or not made available. But if a majority of concerns is overridden on a vote, on a sub process of a democratic process, and it overrides the concerns of
Okay, yeah, I think we understand what you're saying. Yeah. Bob or Carolyn, do you want to jump in before?
Well, I just wanted to go back to my idea, my initiative. The key to success for any transit system is ridership. Right now, I believe the recovery rate is about 43%. So that means that a subsidy has to be provided either through heightened fares or through general tax base to support that. So we really need to find ridership revenue to keep the prices down for the individuals who want to use it. And that's why, the thought of a bulk buy from the government, much like the universities and the colleges, would be a tremendous boost to the system and allow that sustainability to happen.
I'll just give Carolyn the last 20 here before we go to Marty. Go ahead.
So the other point to make again, and to come back to always, is that subsidizing to boost ridership, it's a great idea. However, we always have to be fiscally responsible, and we've spent a lot of money on public transportation, and residents are feeling that they're not getting their money's worth.
All right, thank you, Carolyn. Marty, you have 30 seconds to wrap up here.
Yeah, thanks very much, Derick. And I think transit is going to be one of the hottest issues in the next 4 years as council. And as I mentioned, I'm intimately aware of transit. I've taken it for over 25 years that I've lived in Ottawa. We need to look beyond the LRT. We need to fix the LRT. We need to implement those recommendations. But we need to make local transit more reliable. We need to get to those people who have no other way around the ward. We need to develop innovative solutions. And we also need to incentivize the use of transit, make sure that the service level is there in order to help address the environmental concerns as well.
Okay, thank you, Marty. Carolyn, we start with you with this next topic, and actually Marty sort of hit it off for me there because it will be on the environment. It's been a big topic in this campaign. Can and should the City of Ottawa play a role when it comes to climate change? What are some of the solutions we should be looking at? You have 45 seconds to open.
So thank you for that, Derick. Yes, definitely the city should be continuing to work and continuing to strive to be a leader to ensure a comprehensive and integrated approach. They currently have that through our climate change master plan. We must continue to electrify our city's vehicle fleets where possible, utilizing loan programs that are available at provincial and federal levels to electrify those fleets. Work with our federal and provincial partners to continue to hit targets. There are federal targets, provincial targets, and that includes building retrofits, again, EV fleets, to continue with deep energy retrofits on city buildings that will support our greenhouse gas reduction targets and increase the tree canopy.
Okay, that starts things off. I open it up to all candidates.
Great. Well, I'll start if that's okay. So actually, I think the municipality is in the best situation of any level of government in terms of addressing the climate change crisis, because we're responsible for roads, we're responsible for transportation, we're responsible for parks, and so we have all of that responsibility. So you can affect change a lot at the local level. I heard my colleague here mention that there's provincial and federal targets. There's also municipal targets. And for the climate change master plan that the city has, it is currently not funded. So we need to make sure that those items are funded. Obviously, there's lots and lots of things that can be done, but I think we need to really think outside the box in terms of what we can do. And there's different areas to look at. Let's think of some new ideas. Urban agriculture. We grow community gardens all over the place. A lot of the produce spoils at the end. We need to invest in urban agriculture because actually that can do a lot. You can have green roofs, which will help. You can, greenhouse, it will help with food security. It will eliminate truck traffic from across the border. So we hear a lot about building retrofits, electrifying. There's lots, as councillors, we need to bring new ideas to the table as well.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Do you want
Yeah, I think we all know that buildings are the greatest uses of, or harmful to the environment in terms of the occupancy of buildings. So I think a focus on the building portfolio that the City of Ottawa owns, to make them as green as possible is a step forward. Also to implement in terms of the building code, if they can influence that, to have the standard of construction be enhanced to a LEED Platinum standard to try to enhance that footprint as well for the overall city. That's one idea. The other idea on the environment, I think electrifying the current bus system would be a great leap forward, and I'm not sure where the funding is going to come from for that particular venture, but I think it's a huge step forward that other cities have done over the country, and would be a welcome addition. I think lastly, I'll get back to public transit again. Public transit, if we can get more people on the public transit versus driving their cars, huge impact on the environment. And so it also helps our transit system. So I think that should be the three focuses: buildings, okay, transit, and
Gino?
I can't really add much more to that, aside from most people have an awareness of this. It's a global issue. And to try and take something of that perspective, a global problem, try to resolve, come up with overreaching solution at the municipal level. It's a phenomenal task. I mean, I think we should all think and do what we can to, at the very, right down to the family level, be cognizant of what you're doing that can reduce any activities that contribute to this problem.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Carolyn.
Yeah, so almost everyone here has asked how to pay for all these new innovative ideas, even under the current climate change master plan that the city has. And it's to leverage our current partnerships. The federal government has made a commitment for planting trees. So use some of that funding so that the city doesn't have to pay out of its own pocket, and we plant trees at the same time. It's to leverage those current and new partnerships, whether it be private, and when it comes to the environment, private partnerships would be great because we all win. It's a win-win situation, but it's to continue to leverage those partnerships so that the city doesn't constantly have to look out of its own budget, but to use others' budgets, and while looking for new investments.
Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, perfect. Well, the good news is, Carolyn, that the city is already part of the 2 billion trees program that the federal government announced. So it's the capacity building stream that Ottawa is using. So that's already in place. I just wanted to comment to Bob's point. I agree with retrofitting buildings, and if you look around Alta Vista, you'll see that the cinder block Recreation Center is sort of the hallmark of Alta Vista. We've got lots of buildings around Alta Vista, our community centers, all desperately in need of retrofit. Let's start thinking in terms of solar panels, how we can modernize the buildings that we have. We've even got empty field houses that are never used. Let's start looking in our ward and as councillors to see what we can do and how we can contribute to these efforts.
Bob, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Marty. I looked at the Belina house before for a reuse. In some cases, those buildings don't have a reuse, so we just need to demolish them. I wanted to talk about our recycling program. I think Alta Vista residents, just like the rest of the residents in Ottawa, do a very good job at recycling towards helping the environment. One place where we could do better is green bin collection. where we're lagging a bit, and we'd like to see a better response. If we could push our residents to support that a little bit more, it would do great things for landfills and other things in the environment that surely needs it.
Okay, excellent. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add just to Bob's point, hopefully the new solid waste master plan will help make some strides in terms of the environment, what he's speaking of.
Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. I'll come back to you, Carolyn. You'll have 30 seconds to wrap up on this topic.
So again, strong councillor in the ward needs to, again, look ward-wide, see what residents in Alta Vista can do, help them achieve small things and larger things across the city, larger projects that will help reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and work with the climate change master plan that is in place.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Carolyn. Bob, I come back to you for the next topic. Again, you'll have 45 seconds to open it up. We have an opioid crisis, an addiction crisis. The Ottawa City Council called homelessness an emergency here in this city back in January of 2020. That situation and the opioid crisis and addiction has only worsened since then. How do we go about tackling these important issues that are affecting more and more people in our community? Bob, you have 45 seconds.
Yeah, it's a very difficult and essential problem in our community. And I'll tell you, in Alta Vista, we see people, unfortunately, that are high on something, at Envel Shopping Center early in the morning or intoxicated. And it's not just a downtown Ottawa type of problem. Unfortunately, Ottawa Health tries to tackle it in concert with the police, but I think the coordination of the different agencies is what's required here. So I think that's where the root of the problem will be solved when all of the agencies together recognize this problem and work together towards a solution.
All right, I open it up to everybody. Go ahead.
I take a point from Bob. I don't know that the community organizations are not already working together. I believe they are, and so to tackle this problem, and it's a citywide problem, you need to continue to work together and to provide resources to these frontline community organizations. Everyone is stretched to the limit. Everyone needs new funding. So we need to be a proactive council, a proactive councillor, and help these organizations find the funding, rework budgets, and make sure that they have the resources that they need at their hands. We've seen throughout the pandemic, Ottawa Public Health did an amazing job. And frontline organizations downtown do amazing work with safe injection sites that we have open, and it's to continue to pour resources with our limited funding and limited budgets, but to find innovative and new tools, new resources to help those organizations continue their good work.
So Carolyn, I was referring to the city organizations, not necessarily the community organizations that are supporting. So Ottawa Public Health and the police department and the paramedics have to work together.
Marty, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, no, I'll just add, again, that was sort of a twofold question. You talked about homelessness, and then you also talked about drug use. And I'll just mention, in terms of Alta Vista, the pandemic really exposed the need for housing for homelessness people. 3 of our 4 community buildings were used during the pandemic. 1 is still in use to house homeless individuals. And I think that goes to show the crisis that's in the city and the fact that a lot of attention hasn't been paid to this. Often we equate drug use with homelessness. Drug use is a bit more pervasive than that. But really, I think a councillor's job, and Bob spoke to coordinating across. I've served on many committees as the Alta Vista Community Association representative. They tend to be localized, dealing with these issues. We need a councillor that takes strong leadership, that can coordinate across, that can work with their colleagues and discuss how we tackle these issues, how we improve the social services budget. For homelessness, let's look at how we manage the budget. We spend tons of money to put folks in apartment buildings that the city pays a lot of money for. You remember the controversy with the Tabor apartments. There are better solutions that are more cost effective that can house better people, and we need to have a council that is committed to solving these social services problems.
Gino, do you want to add to this conversation?
I don't have much more to add to that. I mean, it's a serious issue. I know how easy it is to slip into this addiction into opioids. I was prescribed for an injury, Oxycontin, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And from personal experience, it helped, but I could see how it just sneaks into a person's, what's the right word? I was prescribed that. It helped for a while, and I found myself like going back to the doctor. Listen, this really works great. I'd like a little bit more with the doctor. And there's an element of sort of a gatekeeping control. The doctor would not, because he recognized this is an insidious drug that can creep in and take over your life.
Right.
Fortunately,
You know what I'll add to this as well is that we've heard some candidates talking about the police services budget and perhaps reallocating some of that budget into some of these social services that we're discussing. Some people talking about freezing the budget or reallocating some of that money. So I'll just throw that out there as part of the conversation. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that the opioid and other drug problems are not limited to the homeless, as Marty said. Not limited to the young, the old, people my age, middle age. It's a problem for everyone, and it leads to crime, but more importantly, it leads to people's lives being deteriorated. And if it's youth, that's the future of Ottawa and Alta Vista. So it's an extremely serious issue. It needs to be addressed at the municipal level, and I think, as Carolyn said, the coordination of the different groups that are at the heart of this issue need to seek more funding.
Bob, I'm just going to stop you there because you will have a chance to wrap. So just if Marty or Carolyn want to get in here at all.
No, I'm good on this
Okay,
topic, thanks.
Carolyn, do you have anything to add?
I agree that policing resources, paramedic resources, fire, all of our frontline organizations are stretched to their limits. Ottawa is a big, sprawling city. And so we're seeing those issues. It came to light during the pandemic. It existed there before in terms of paramedic services not functioning well. And as a big city and as a world-class city, we need to have those basic essential services functioning properly. And that means a strong council, a strong councillor working with partners across the board to make sure that those essential services are there and citizens can count on them, that they're reliable for them. And so we need to come up with innovative ways to stretch their budgets. And staffing, look at staffing issues. They're all being confronted with this. And so as a council, we need to work with them to make sure that they have the tools at their disposal that they need.
Okay, thank you all. Bob, you have 30 seconds here.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, well, health services is a universal service that is an essential service to our community, because without that healthy community, we have no community. So we need to, as all the candidates here have reiterated, we need to ensure that those organizations who are on the front line are properly funded to attempt to address the issue at hand. And unfortunately, it won't be a geographic solution for Alta Vista only. It's a citywide solution, but we need to help secure more funding and more resources for it.
Thank you, Bob. All right, Gino, next question to you. You'll have 45 seconds to open up. A lot of these things that we've been talking about cost a lot of money, and there's a lot of concern over the growing debt here in the city of Ottawa. So where do we set tax rates with an understanding that inflation is going up over the next 4 years? Taking all that into account, how do we make sure that we get the services that we're accustomed to without raising tax rates to a point where, of inflation and where residents are going to be concerned? Gino, you have 45 seconds to open.
Well, I'm just going to read something from notes that I've taken and acquired during my research with the conversations with municipal authorities. I'm just going to say, I'm hoping that current decision-making authorities recognize the inequitable treatment of tax-paying constituents and of the neglect in the proper application and implementation of, land use planning rules and regulations, all of which require to be exercised with equitable proportionality, without favor to one group of citizens and disadvantaging others. This involves budgeting.
Okay, so, Gino, you can add in later, but I'll open it up to everyone here.
So the financial part of this is very important to me. I believe in value for money. So I'm not so focused on increases versus decreases versus holding the line on budget. I'm looking at, are we getting the value we're paying for? And is there opportunities to either get better value or reduce costs to make that equation work? And I would, I think that one of the criticisms I have of council of past is they've just assumed that increases are acceptable to the constituents of Ottawa, which they're not. So we need to make sure that we're spending every dollar wisely, and we need to go line by line. I'm a financial person, so we go line by line to investigate, are we spending these dollars just like people do with their own home budgets, and make sure that our budget is not inflated, there's no slack in it, and that hopefully, maybe we can reduce taxes for those, because affordability of living here is getting out of control for people.
Yeah, and Bob, that's a really good point. I think you're kind of talking about zero-based budgeting there, but what's interesting is since 2000, there has been no program review at the City of Ottawa since 2006. And so we don't really know if the world has changed a lot. Is it still relevant, the programs that the city has provided? So I think that that's something that's really important. And we've got debt of about $3.36 billion right now. And in these times of high inflation, I can't see how we would be jockeying to raise property taxes beyond the 3% that is every year. So we definitely need a strong council who understands financial management. I know as a federal government executive, I've spent my entire career working in results-based management. We need to look at every opportunity. We need to look at the investment policy that the city has. We need to look at doing a program review. We need to look at other forms of taxation as well. For example, the payment in lieu taxes. We're a huge federal government area. Both Montreal and Halifax have challenged the payment in lieu program and won in federal court. Is there an opportunity there? We need to look at every avenue to increase the city revenues.
Carolyn?
I agree. My platform is to be fiscally responsible, and so it is to look at all of the city's programs and see if we are spending our money properly. It's a huge concern for residents. They see programs being implemented, but they're not seeing the services that come along with it. And at the base value, that is what, as a councillor, you're there to listen to your residents and to actually hear what they're saying. And if something's not working for them, take that back, and as a strong councillor, take it back to council and debate, argue, seek concessions, seek new investments, look at other partners, find innovative and new ways, new partners to make things function and work. I think some people would say right now City Council is slightly dysfunctional, and so it needs to start functioning properly on all systems, and that means financially as well.
Well, and lack of transparency and public consultation is something that we could throw into this as well, because residents feel that they're not being heard on many occasions. Bob, go ahead.
Well, Derick, I was going to suggest, I've been to many council meetings and committee meetings where I noticed that councillors haven't even read the budget. So I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. I know it's a difficult, document to read, and it's thousands of pages in some cases for the underlying data. But I think we need the expertise, at least for Alta Vista, to be able to look the residents in the eyes and say, I've reviewed this, I know what it says, and I don't agree with this, this, and this, and work with staff to try to reduce those items. So unfortunately in the past, I'm not necessarily saying in Alta Vista, that hasn't been the strength of councillors to actually go through that information and be ready to address this huge issue, but rather just rubber stamp an increase that comes from the mayor's office.
Anyone want to jump in? Gino, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Transparency, in my view, is fundamentally one of the more important things. Again, in my communications with various people at the municipal level, you look for clarity, transparency, but what you're confronted with is more opaqueness. The problem can't be handled, so it gets deflected to another agency. You seek clarity and transparency from that agency, it gets deflected to another institution. I mean, this just erodes institutional trust.
Okay, Gina, you'll have a chance to wrap on this, so anybody else want to get in here?
Yeah, I'll just add that I think this whole discussion really highlights the fact that we really need a strong councillor at the table, someone who understands that their position as a city councillor is not just to be solving day-to-day problems, but somebody who understands that their role is to challenge and on items that sometimes get lost in city governance as things work themselves up. Bob's exactly right. There's people that don't even look at the document. So you need people that will challenge, that will ask the right questions, and that will ensure that every single taxpayer is getting value for their money. And the fact that a program review hasn't been done since 2006, we need to open up and we need to look for those efficiencies.
Carolyn, did you want to add anything here? Okay, so let's just wrap it there, and I'll come back to you. Gino, you have 30 seconds to wrap up on this topic.
Like I was saying about transparency, accountability, in my own personal experience over the past 2 years, I see there's a lack of those. So as a councillor, I've done a deep dive into various issues over the past 2 years, and as a councillor, I'm prepared to deep dive into issues, and if there's something not resolvable or answers can be obtained at a municipal level, you have to reach out and see, well, what is the hang-up here?
Okay, sorry, but we're out of time there. Thank you very much, Gino. Thank you to all of our candidates. That does it for the debate portion. So we'll move into our closing statements here. Each candidate will have 60 seconds. We'll do that in reverse order. So we start with you, Carolyn. You have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Rogers. Thank you, Derick. And thank you to my fellow candidates for participating in this. Again, my priorities are to be Alta Vista focused, to open a ward community office in the wards to better serve residents, for the councillor to come to them, not that they have to come to the councillor, to be fiscally responsible, protecting and safeguarding our essential services while championing progressive policies, and working collaboratively at the council level with new mayor, new councillors, and current councillors. I believe Alta Vista deserves a strong councillor who knows its past, can see its future, and is willing to work hard and collaboratively in the present to get us there. I'm the right person to tackle the upcoming challenges at Ottawa City Hall. I would be honored to serve the community and earn your vote on October 24th. Thank you. Merci.
Okay, thank you very much, Carolyn. Marty, you have 60 seconds as well for your closing statement.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Derick, and thank you for the opportunity today. And I also want to thank my colleagues as well for their interest in debate. I've attended scores of city consultation in recent years on the issues that we discussed today, and I haven't seen any of my colleagues at any of these consultations over the last 4 years, so I certainly appreciate the enthusiasm that's been shown for municipal issues today. As an 18-year resident and active volunteer in Alta Vista, I've taken time to listen to what community members want. These are reflected in the key priorities I will focus on and the specific commitments for Alta Vista that I posted on my website. What I've set out to achieve is doable and measurable. I have the know-how, the experience, and the drive to get things done. I've heard today from a couple candidates who've stated that they've lived in Alta Vista their entire lives, who say that Alta Vista deserves a councillor who's lived here the longest, knows the ward. I personally don't believe the circumstance of your birth entitle you to elected office. Alta Vista is a ward that is rich in diversity, with individuals coming from a wide range of backgrounds. The message that you're entitled to a role based on your upbringing is archaic and quite frankly privileged. I believe that hard work, deep and demonstrated interest, and passion for people in municipal interests, and a proven track record for delivering results is what Alta Vista should be looking for.
Thank you very much, Marty. Gino, over to you. You have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
As a councillor, like I stated earlier, I'm committed to deep dive into the issues and do the thorough research that's required of any outstanding problem. I know I've reached out to various people within the community and been confronted with an unwillingness to move forward with a quite serious issue that's been affecting for a long period of time residents of the Ward 18, of which I've undertaken as a private citizen to try and push forward the concerns and get them heard. Frankly, with the current administration, I'm not impressed. I've reached out to my councillor, and he deflected my concerns. As a councillor, I'm not going to deflect residents' concerns. I'll take it in and research it and see what can be done.
Thank you, Gino. Bob, you have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Yes, thank you for the invite here today. It's been great. Through my extensive community work, I understand the needs and wants of residents and taxpayers, and the need for a very strong advocate at City Hall to make those needs and wants known and executed. Through my extensive professional experience, I've worked on large infrastructure projects. I've managed 50 million plus budgets. I've advised on transportation issues, advised on community and recreational facilities, helped plan cities, worked with city staff at Ottawa, politicians, community partners, not-for-profits, and of course the other two levels of government. Those that know me I'm a very strong communicator and advocate for causes that I support, and even stronger on the execution of the initiatives which I'm spearheading. With a new, fresh council, wouldn't the residents of Alta Vista want to have the strongest advocate, full of directly relatable experience, represent them at City Hall? I'm hoping they will see me as that candidate. I'm Bob Perkins, and I thank you for your support.
All right, thank you all. Really appreciate your time today, and certainly respect for all of you, getting into politics. It's not something that's easy. So on behalf of everybody, thank you for coming, and good luck to all of you. And of course, you at home, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to find more debates, you can head over to rogerstv.com. And a reminder, Election Day is October 24th. Thank you so much for watching this edition of The Local Campaign.